And moderator of the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer will be turned on and members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right corner of your screen.
Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we haven't opened the meeting yet and gotten to that section on the agenda.
You are correct, sir. I am sorry. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning. We apologize for the technical difficulties with WebEx once again. Today is Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. This is the BRN meeting scheduled from 9 to 1 p.m. Agenda item 1, call to order, roll call and establish a quorum. Beginning with myself, I'm Michael Jackson, appointed by the governor in the faculty role, president of the board. Next board member is Dolores Trujillo. Will you introduce yourself?
This is Dolores Trujillo, appointed by the governor in the bedside nurse role.
Donna Gerber.
Hi, this is Donna Gerber, appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly as a public member.
Elizabeth Wood.
Did you hear me?
No, we didn't.
Elizabeth Woods, appointed by the governor in the advanced practice role.
Kenneth Marlborough.
Ken Marlborough, appointed by the Senate Rules Committee, public member and vice president.
And our executive officer.
Loretta Melby, Executive Officer, supported by the board.
Thank you very much, everyone. We've established the roll call and established the quorum. Now we can begin with item 2.0, general instructions. And also, BRN moderator, can you inform them that during the public comments section, since we're starting late, we like to limit the comments to 1 minute, please.
Thank you. I apologize again. This is the moderator of the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, a question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. The moderator will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 1 minute to make their comments. At the conclusion of the minute, the individual's microphone will be muted and we will move on to the next member of the public. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for the members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board. Such inquiries submitted during this feature will not be answered. When asking your question, please make sure the question is directed at the host in the dropdown. Also, if any attendees utilize a profane name, they will not be called upon to prevent members of the public from being subject to profane language. While you are free to express criticism or negative views for the sake of the members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments on to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when the board members or senior staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphones. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of muted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder. Thank you.
BRN moderator, thank you very much for those instructions. We're going to move along to item 3.0. But before we move on, can somebody mute their cell phone, please? Before we move on to item 3.0 on our agenda, I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege as the board president to take a moment of silence, for a brief moment of silence for the nurses that have lost their lives to COVID-19 recently. We thought we were turning a corner on this, and then it has surprised us once again, and many nurses have lost their lives. And I'd like to take a brief moment of silence. Thank you, everyone, for allowing that brief moment of silence for our colleagues that have lost their lives battling this disease or this virus that has attacked the world. And now we'll move on to item 3.0, public comments for items not on the agenda. You've heard the instructions from the BRN moderator from item 2.0, and we encourage public comment. We believe in people exercising their constitutional rights. I believe deeply in exercising the constitutional rights. As a veteran, risked his life and went to a foreign war in another country, I absolutely believe in people being able to have the ability to exercise their right to free speech. So, item 3.0, public comments for items not on the agenda.
We will be opening up for public comment now. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to do that. Okay, board president, we have a member of the public with the name of Dr. Sharon Goldfarb who would like to make a comment. Member of the public, Dr. Sharon Goldfarb, I will unmute your microphone in a moment and give you a verbal cue once you are unmuted. Remember, you have 1 minute. Go ahead, Dr. Goldfarb. Dr. Goldfarb. Dr. Goldfarb, I will come back to you. Are you ready? I'm sorry.
Her microphone is showing as muted.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay. I have a question for the legal counsel. Please describe the process of how the BRN takes a stance on legislation based off public comment. If the majority of public comment wants the BRN to take a stance, what is the process for the decision? And
I'm
how
sorry, hang on. This is a public comment, not question and answer.
Okay, well then my comment is I have concerns that the BRN are making policy recommendations without taking in either what the public wants or the evidence-based and literature recommendations. And that is my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Goldfarb. Member of the public with the name of Philip Grenier, I will unmute your microphone in a moment and give you a verbal cue once you are unmuted. Go ahead, Philip.
Good morning, members of the board. This is Dr. Phil Greiner from San Diego State University School of Nursing. And I would ask that you pay attention to what is actually happening in the field. We actually have very few clinical placements available to us. Those placements that are opening for only a few students, not the usual 8 or 10 in a clinical group. We may not be able to even make the 25% that is being asked for in Assembly Bill 2288, let alone the 50% direct care that is covered by the waiver. So please pay attention to what's happening in the field. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Greiner. Kathy Marsh, I will be unmuting your microphone and I will give you a verbal cue when you're ready. Go ahead, Ms. Marsh. Ms. Marsh?
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Kathy Marsh. I'm the Associate Dean at the University of San Diego. I would like to support Bill AB 2288. Can you hear me? Hello?
Ms. Marsh, this is Board Counsel Reza Pejhash. We can hear you. I'll remind you and the public as well. You can make your comment, but there will also be an agenda item where that's discussed. So you can hold it for that time or go ahead.
Additionally,
And we're now unable to hear you.
Ms. Marsh, are you speaking?
let's see if we could get some of the technological issues cleared up so we could have a really interactive meeting today. It's very frustrating to be in the public comment and because of the difficulties, it won't work. Yes, I am.
We've heard the other participants loud and clear. I don't know if there's a technological issue on your end, but things seem to be working.
We'll come back to Kathy Marsh.
No, we're not.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Mary Wickman, I will unmute your microphone in a moment and give you a verbal cue. Go ahead, Ms. Wickman.
Good morning. My name is Mary Wickman, and I wanted to say good morning to the board and to all the people on the call. I'm the president of the California Association of Colleges of Nursing, and I wanted to make a comment that we're in support of AB 2288 for many of the reasons that Phil Greiner so eloquently addressed. But all of us are so concerned about the pipeline of nursing students through school and into practice, especially as to what we're seeing in hospitals now. So appreciate your collaboration and concern and joining us and trying to make this happen. Thank you.
Board President, that was the final request for public comment. Would you like me to close the public comment window?
This is board counsel. I would suggest if Ms. Marsh wants another chance to speak, give her the remainder of her time. Hopefully she's sorted out whatever microphone issues she's had.
Ms. Marsh,
Go ahead.
would you like to continue? Was that all of them? Oh, Karen Lightfoot.
There was definitely still a microphone issue coming from Ms. Marsh.
You're unmuted.
Okay, sorry. We do have one more. Karen Lightfoot, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Dr. Karen Lightfoot. I am the president-elect for the California Association of Colleges of Nursing. I'm also the director at California State University, Chico. I wanted to thank the board. I was looking, and it looks like you are looking at supporting Assembly Bill 2288 with amendments. And I just wanted to add that the flexibility is critical for many of our schools of nursing across the state to be able to continue providing excellent quality and safe practice for our students to learn how to be efficient and effective and safe nurses in the field. And one of the things that is included in that is the opportunity to have more hours in simulation, which is designed specifically to address safety and allow students to have hands-on experiences in learning how to become nurses. So thank you again. I appreciate the support that comes from the Board of Nursing. Thank you.
We have one more public comment. LaShonda S., I will be unmuting your microphone.
Hi, my name is LaShonda Shannon. At the last board meeting on June 24th, 2020, board members voted to support AB 2288 with technical amendments, and there was a letter sent on July 23rd, 2020 opposing the bill. And I just echo Dr. Sharon Goldfart's sentiments. What the board process is, how the position changed, but there was no board meeting or an opportunity for the public to provide comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is board counsel. Just very briefly on that last comment, I believe the letter that LaShonda S. was referring to was retracted and another letter sent in its place to correct the issue of the board position consistent with the position that the board had adopted. at its meeting. Thank you.
We have another public comment. Gabby Aliyev, I will be unmuting your microphone. Go ahead, Ms. Aliyev.
Thank you. This is Dr. Gabby Aliyev, Interim Associate Dean of the Grossman College Nursing Program. Thank you, Board, for willing to support AB 2288. However, I would like to note that we don't have enough clinical placements for our students as of now. In our college, the semester begins less than 2 weeks. I would like to ask the board to consider being more flexible and allow us to make decisions based on the options that we have. Thank you.
Board President, that was the final public comment for this item. Would you like me to close the public comment window?
Yes, please. Thank you, BRN moderator. Thank you, BRN moderator. That closes the public comment. Moving along to item 4.0, report of the legislative committee. We will turn it over to the chairperson of that committee, and that is Donna Gerber.
Good morning, everyone. This is Donna Gerber. We will proceed with agenda item 4.0 and also going down to 4.1. I'm assuming that our Chief of Legislation, Thelma Harris, is on the call. Are you there, Thelma?
I am here. I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Just wanted to make sure. So everyone, the reason for this meeting is because there are several important bills to the BRN that have been moving through the legislature since our last meeting in June, on June 24th. Several of those bills were amended after June 24th. One of them is still proposing amendments as late as yesterday. So this is a situation that sometimes occurs, a bit of a timing problem between when the BRN Ledge Committee meets and then the BRN meeting meets to consider the recommendations from the Legislative Committee, and especially in the month of August because, as you may know, a lot of things can change with legislation during this last month. And certainly this particular session is not only no exception to that reality, but it's seemingly exacerbated by the fact that the legislature, both houses of the legislature, are operating remotely. They are limiting both the committee hearings on each bill as well as the ability for stakeholders and or the public to weigh in on some of these important issues. So consistent with the board's past history, what we've tried to do is be responsive as much as possible, given the timelines and given the opportunities for input, to be as responsive and up to date as possible. So what we're going to do today is review the currently pending bills that are of interest to the board and that the board has taken previous positions on. In some cases, bills have been amended to make them more acceptable to the board than they were in June. And we will look at those. In some cases, bills have not been amended as we had requested, so we will look at those. Our position probably will remain the same, but we can look at those. And then there are bills that have been amended significantly from the June 24th meeting. And I, as Ledge Chair and your president, as well as the executive director, the chief of legislation, have been following every bit of activity relative to these bills, at least as best we could under these circumstances. So we will be trying to update you along with the materials that you've received in your packet. Thelma, I'm going to request that in terms of the order of discussion, could you please first identify bills that are listed in bold on our agenda that have since been held or are not moving, so that we know we don't have to discuss those bills today?
Absolutely, Donna. So let's look at the bills in your packet that are in bold. Let's see, that have been held. So they're not on this one. They're not on the list that's in the packet. I can try to go by memory here. AB 1544 was a bill that was held. Also,
No, Thelma, excuse me a second. Excuse me. What I'm referring to here is, I believe, AB 2185. Patterson Gallagher may not be moving. But I'm not sure about that. You'll have to correct me. But I know that AB 2549, Salas, and AB 3016 are not moving, correct?
AB 3016 is waiting. It's not that it's not moving. They could be assigned today. So it's still an active bill. But yes.
What about?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
2549?
AB 2549 is gone to Senate BNP. Waiting to be scheduled, yes.
SB 1053, Morlock?
Senate Bill 1053 has been held, yes. So that's why it's not on the list for today.
I'm just looking at the list that's on the agenda.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So could you lead us through the bills one by one, especially identifying changes that have occurred or amendments that have occurred after June 24th? And could you leave, I think we're going to move AB 2288 to be the last bill that we discuss, because my assumption is that that's going to take a long time, and perhaps we have speakers from the public on that. So I just want to see if we can go through the other ones that I don't think we'll have that will require that much time, beginning with AB 890.
Yes, I will. So beginning with Assembly Bill 890, the author is Assemblymember Wood, and this bill is in reference to the nurse practitioner scope of practice, unsupervised practice. At our last board meeting on June 24th, the board did vote to oppose unless amended The amendments that have come forward as of today, I'll just say of July 29th, 2020, which still is in print, the opposition that the board had regarding this bill was in reference to the establishment of a new APRN board. That amendment, that language has been removed from this bill. And so the language otherwise did not have any significant concerns with the board. That has been removed. And it is now going to Senate B&P to be heard.
Okay, well, that's great. What it means is that the bill now reflects the requested amendments to the bill, and I would recommend that the board support the bill as it is currently amended.
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Mr. Moderator, well, first let me ask, are there any questions from board members?
This is Elizabeth Woods.
Hi, Betty. Go ahead.
Hi. I still have some question about this bill as to what the physician role is going to be.
I can respond to that, Donna, if you'd like me to.
Yes, please.
So what the bill is indicating is that a APRN advisory committee would be established, and on this committee would be a reflection of what the midwives committee has established. That would be nurse practitioners and also physicians as a part of this committee. But it would be a committee and not a board.
What are the numbers?
They did not specify the numbers in the language.
I'm sorry?
The numbers of exactly how many physicians or how many nurse practitioners, it's not specified in the language.
Perhaps we should have clearer language over that.
Would you like to make a suggestion, Betty?
Well, I'd like some clarity over that when they talk about a group of people, but they don't specify the numbers per se. I have an issue with that.
I believe that does mean that it would be up to the board to make that determination.
Would it be up to the board? I mean, if it's up to the board, it's up to the board, but that doesn't say that per se. Who's going to make the decision about it?
Thelma, could you help out here?
I would need to go back and look at that and bring that back to you. Trying to look specifically for that.
Yeah, I'd specifically like to know as to the numbers of the members and who are going to appoint them and how's that going, who has the authority to appoint it? Is it the board? Are they going to decide among themselves?
Yeah, Betty, I can respond to that from the language that's in the bill. It says that the board shall establish a nurse practitioner advisory committee to advise and make recommendations to the board on all matters relating to nurse practitioners. And then it goes on to say that a majority of the members of the committee shall be nurse practitioners, and the committee shall include physicians and surgeons with demonstrated experience working with nurse practitioners. So I think what Donna was saying is true, that the board shall establish the committee.
All right, I'm okay with it then.
Okay, great. Any other questions from board members before we open it to public comment? Okay, Mr. Moderator, could you open to public comment on this agenda item, which is AB 890.
Thank you, Board Member Gerber. We will be opening up for public comment now. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Saskia Kim, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Morning. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. Good morning. This is Saskia Kim with California Nurses Association. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. CNA was previously opposed to AB 890 because it would have established a new advanced practice registered nursing board within DCA to separately oversee nurse practitioners. Because this provision was deleted from the bill, as Ms. Harris described in the most recent amendment, CNA is no longer opposed to the bill. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, would you see if there's any other public comment on this item?
Charlotte Gulap Moore, I will be unmuting your microphone. Sorry.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
yes.
ma'am, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. My name is Charlotte Gullat Moore, and as the current language states, and to the member of the board who just pointed it out, section 2837.102. Section B, it states the majority of members of the committee shall be nurse practitioners, and the committee shall include physicians and surgeons demonstrating experience working with nurse practitioners. I would like to ask for the board to oppose the bill, otherwise amended, removing the inclusion of physicians and surgeons from this APRN advisory committee mentioned as written in the most up-to-date amendments to AB 890. I am concerned that by adding another profession to said advisory board, it would be under the guise and influenced by another profession, and that is not what APRNs or nursing needs. We have checks and balances in place, board certifications, and a BRN with policies and procedures that oversees what we can and cannot do in the best interest of the public. We do not need representation from other professions to dictate.
Thank you, Ms. Gulap Moore.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, do we have any other public comment on AB 890?
Yes, ma'am. Darcy Gruffel, I will be unmuting your microphone. Please be reminded that you have 1 minute.
Moderator, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Darcy Rufo. I am a board certified psychiatric mental health registered nurse, and I would like to agree with Miss Charlotte Gulap Moore's comments that I feel it's inappropriate for physician oversight as a part of this subcommittee through the board to oversee practice of advanced practice registered nurses, considering that the practice of nursing is very much outside the practice of medicine from the physician's perspective. And I feel that it would not be appropriate to have physician oversight for this particular advanced practice nursing committee. In addition, I do appreciate the board's support of this bill in general to allow for greater independence of practice for advanced practice registered nurses.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, do we have any other members of the public on this? I see one more.
Samantha Gamble Spar, we will be unmuting your microphone.
Oh, hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
As it relates to the presence of physicians on an advisory board as it relates to advanced practice nursing. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Samantha, can you make your statement again? I'm sorry.
Thank you for the acknowledgement. My name is Samantha Gamblesfar. I'm a nurse practitioner intensivist in San Diego. I would like to echo the previous statements that by Dr. Gullop-Moore, and I'm sorry, the previous speaker, as well as it relates to the presence of physicians on an advisory board guiding the practice of nurse practitioners in the state of California. I would wish that the board would continue to watch this bill and have that specific language removed, as it does not lend to the practice of nursing as a whole.
Sandra Bordy, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Thank you. This is Sandra Bordy. I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist. I too am supporting Charlotte Gallup-Moore's support in amending the language in the bill with physicians and surgeons being present on the APRN Advanced Committee. This should solely be done by nurse practitioners and other advanced practice nurses. Thank you.
Charlotte Gullop-Moore, I will be unmuting your microphone.
I believe she already made a comment.
Is she not allowed to make another one?
And I think we've limited the time. If she wants to make it quick and use the remainder of what time she had left, I suppose that's fine.
Now she's muted.
Hello?
Go ahead, Ms. Gullop-Moore, sorry.
In addition to my opposition to the presence of organized medicine on advisory on this APRN advisory committee, I also oppose the idea of adding an additional 3 years to nurse practitioners wanting to work independently, in addition to the 3 years, 4,700 hours beneath the description of the transition to practice. We already have a shortage of primary care providers. And so this does not allow us to increase access to care. Please oppose unless otherwise to this amendment as well. We don't need an additional 3 years on top of 3 years and or 4,600 hours. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, is that the end of the public comment list?
Yes, Board Member Gerber, would you like me to close public comments?
Yes, please.
This is Elizabeth Woods again.
Go ahead, Betty.
Listening to the several comments on this issue, it does bring more and more worry to me in a lot of ways. And I don't think I'd support it as it is written right now, because I am concerned also about the MD on the advisory board. I don't know why it's necessary. I don't see why that we need that. So I would like to see the MD removed from the advisory board. The more I think about this and the more that I've heard the comments about this. And the issue with the 3 years is also, I think this whole bill needs to be looked at again.
Okay, this is Donna. Betty, I would modify my motion that the board change its position from, I believe our position was, well, okay, let's go back to Thelma. Is it opposed unless amended?
Yes.
Okay. Betty, would you like it to continue to be opposed unless amended with this specifying removal of any physician requirements on the APRN committee?
Yeah, I think the advisory board.
Or do you?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, just go ahead.
The advisory board and the within the BRN should be deciding maybe on the membership, and if they need that person at some point, that could be another discussion. But I guess I don't want to see the MD on to start with. And the 3-year also needs to be, we need a lot more information, I think. I need a lot more information about this before I would agree with it the way it is now. I don't agree with it the way it is now.
Okay, let me just clarify. Let me get Thelma to clarify what the actual current bill requires. Thelma, can you weigh in on this relative to the committee makeup?
Okay. So relative to the committee makeup, it does not specify the number, but it does indicate that it should be, I'm trying to find the exact language here. The board shall establish a nurse practitioner advisory committee to advise and make recommendations to the board on all matters relating to nurse practitioners, including but not limited to education, appropriate standard of care, and other matters specified by the board. A majority of the members of the committee shall be nurse practitioners, and the committee shall include physicians and surgeons with demonstrated experience working with nurse practitioners.
Physicians and surgeons? Does that mean two, or is the person be a physician and surgeon? I think that should be eliminated.
The term physician and surgeon basically refers to a physician. That's just what their license classification is called. This is Board Counsel Reza Pejhash, by the way.
This is Ken Marbrell. I have a quick question. I think what I just heard is the board will be responsible for who goes on into this advisory committee. My assumption is any recommendations or information passed forward will be done in a diplomatic way for voting, correct?
This is
a question for anyone who can answer. Basically, this advisory board, when they make recommendations or decisions, they actually sit down and vote on it, correct?
That is correct, yes.
That is correct. And the board establishes, this actually bill established that there will be, based on the numbers, more nurse practitioners than medical doctors on the board, correct?
The bill says a majority shall be nurse practitioners, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I needed to understand.
This is Elizabeth again.
Go ahead.
I think that the MD should be taken out completely.
Okay, well then, I'm totally willing to amend my motion that the position that the board will take on the bill today would be to oppose unless amended, specific to removing the requirement that there be a physician on the advisory board.
Yes.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Actually, Donna. Actually,
Yeah.
Donna and Betty, I have to say, yes, I agree to your amendment because I was the second on it.
Correct.
So yes, I agree to your second.
Okay. So the maker of the motion and the second have agreed to amend the original stated motion, consistent with continuing a position of oppose unless amended, and the specific amendment that the board requires is that there be no physicians on the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Board. Committee, excuse me, it's an advisory committee.
This is
Are
Ken
we
Marble.
clear?
Yeah, Donna, this is Ken. I'm sorry. I just need to ask one
No
other
problem.
additional. I think we do have another committee. Is it midwives?
Correct.
Advisory. Are there doctors on that committee?
I can speak to that. This is Thelma. Yes, in our regulations, it states that one physician is on the committee.
And this was formulated, the board chose the setup on how that committee would look, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't know the history of that one. I'd have to go back and
That's sorry. That's okay. All right. Thank you.
It is on there, but I don't think that we need to follow that.
Hold on. BRN moderator, if you're listening, Emilda Seha Buckowitz is on the line. Can you please elevate her to the panel? Thank you. There you go, Emilda.
Thank you.
Okay, great. We have Imelda back on. We have Imelda on the line on the board. Okay, so we have
I have
a motion.
I have a comment. Wait, I have a comment or a question.
Go right ahead.
If you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. So, Betty, isn't there already a committee that meets?
Pardon me?
Practitioners. Wasn't there a meeting, a committee already established with the NECs that met, but you guys had difficult time meeting? You maybe met once a year, twice a year, and it wasn't very well attended.
Imelda, you're going in and out, so I didn't understand the question.
Okay, I asked, don't you already have a nurse practitioner committee meetings held once or twice a year? This includes some of the NECs.
Yes, that's correct.
So is that not functioning? Is that why we want to put another committee together?
Is that what?
Is it not functioning? Is it not working out? Why are we wanting another committee if we already have one established?
This is Thelma. I can speak to that, Imelda. The committee that is established is the APRN. It's a Advanced Practice Registered Nurse Advisory Committee, and the nurse practitioners have representation on that committee. But the bill AB 890 is specific only to nurse practitioners.
Interesting. My other comment is that, if we are going to have certain members in that committee, that we need to identify, how many nurse practitioners, and if we do include a physician, how many? Is it one? We have to identify how many members and what they consist of.
Thelma, can you clarify that for Imelda?
Yes, I mean, I'd have to go back and clarify that information and bring it back to you because it's not specific in the bill.
Okay, that's okay. You don't have to. I think there's a lot of unknowns about this bill. So yeah, my recommendation is to either hold it until amended until we know more information, or take no position at this time. But I think there's a motion already. Sorry.
No problem. Any other comments by board members? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Okay, Mr. President, would you conduct the voting?
The vote, yes. Michael Jackson votes yes. Dolores Trujillo,
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Donna Gerber,
Donna Gerber votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods,
It's with the taking out the MD, right? We've been talking so much, I don't remember what the whole thing was. We're going
Correct.
to oppose it,
yes.
keep
Yes,
opposing
please.
it unless this changes, right? Okay, fine. I will continue to oppose it, yes.
Imelda Seja Buckowitz,
Yes.
and Kenneth Marlborough.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've acted on AB 890. The next bill would be AB 2028, correct, Thelma?
That is correct. So Assembly Bill Assembly Bill 2028, Aguilar Curry. This bill is in reference to state agencies and meetings. And the board at our last meeting did vote to support as amended. That bill has been amended to the concerns that the board had. And this is in reference to materials being posted, agendas and materials being posted within a timely fashion. At this time, the Board of Registered Nursing already complies to the language that has been put into this bill. This bill now is going to the Senate Government Ops Committee.
Okay, I'm going to recommend that we vote to support as amended. Is there any public comment, Mr. Moderator?
Second.
Would you?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you.
We will be opening up for public comment now. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box. I would like to make a comment. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to do that. Saskia Kim, I will be unmuting your microphone. Go
Good
ahead,
morning.
Ms.
Thank you,
Kim.
Saskia. Thank you. Saskia Kim again with the California Nurses Association, the sponsors of AB 2028. As you've heard, the bill has been amended to require the posting of meeting materials no later than the first business day after the materials are provided to board members, or at least 48 hours prior to a meeting, whichever is earlier. And those recent amendments deleted the previous requirement that materials be posted 10 days prior to a board meeting. So with those changes, CNA respectfully requests that the board remove its opposition to the bill and move to a support position as the best practice. Thanks so much.
Okay, unless you have any more public comment, we will move on, Mr. Moderator.
Board Member Gerber, there are no more comments. Would you like me to close it?
Please. Okay, we are ready to vote on a new position on AB 2028. The position is support as amended. We have a motion and a second. Mr. President, would you conduct the vote?
Are we having any comments?
Go right ahead.
So what does she mean by best practices? I mean, right now we do have a 48-hour prior posting of the materials, right?
Yes, we do. And so go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to know, what are the best practices if we're not practicing them already?
We are. The bill didn't state that in the beginning when it first was introduced. So the language changed. And so I think what CNA is asking us to do to just support, period, the bill as it is now. Because we were supporting as amended. First, we were opposing unless amended, and then we supported as amended. And so CNA is requesting the board to support because we do already comply. They actually utilize the BRN as an example of the way that they would like to see other boards and bureaus to comply.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members before we vote? Mr. President, would you conduct the vote?
Michael Jackson, President of the board, votes yes. And we've already had public comment, correct? Moderator?
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Dolores Trujillo,
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Donna Gerber,
Donna Gerber votes yes.
Elizabeth Wood,
Woods, yes.
Imelda Seja Buckowitz,
Yes.
Kenneth Marlborough.
Marlboro, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's move on. I believe, Thelma, the next one is AB 2185.
I'm sorry, 2185. Okay. So that bill is not a bill that is active.
Perfect. Then let's skip that one.
So the next bill, we're going to skip AB 2288, correct, until later, moving it down. So we'll go to AB 2549. That's Assemblymember Salas, Department of Consumer Affairs, temporary licenses. And the last position that the board took was to watch the bill. This bill basically is a bill that is looking into temporary licenses, which we already comply to around providing temporary licenses to nurses who are coming in from out of state, with a focus also on the military. And we already have that established. I think one of the reasons the board wanted to watch the bill was just to make sure that there weren't any changes as things are moving rapidly that would need to be brought to our attention.
Okay. I would recommend that we continue watching the bill. Do I have a second before we open it up to public comment?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments from board members before we open up to public comment?
This is Ken Marlboro. Just checking, has there been any additional amendments to that particular bill?
Mrs. Thelma, no, there has not.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, could you open it up to public comment on AB 2549?
Thank you, Board Member Gerber. We will be opening it up for public comment now. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. I've activated the Q&A feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to do that. Board Member Gerber, nobody has indicated that they would like to make a comment. Would you like me to close the public comment window?
Yes, please. Okay, so our current position is to watch. We're voting to continue that position. Are the board members ready to vote? Any questions, any comments?
This is Michael Jackson. I vote yes. Dolores Trujillo,
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Donna Gerber,
Donna Gerber, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, Elizabeth Woods,
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Imelda Seha Buckowitz,
Imelda, yes.
Kenneth Marlboro.
Marlboro, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Thelma,
All right, our next bill that's in bold would be Assembly Bill 3016, Assemblymember Dolly. This bill is in reference to the Board of Registered Nursing and online license verification. At our last board meeting on June 24th, the board did vote to oppose this bill. This bill is currently sitting in committee. We don't know if this bill will continue to move. That is the update that we have. Nothing has changed as far as any updates on the bill. It is still a bill that is focusing on establishing the nurses verification process in the state of California.
okay, thank you, Thelma. I would recommend that we continue with the same position on this bill. It hasn't changed since the last time we discussed it. If I have a second, I will then open it up to public comment.
Woods, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Moderator, would you open it up to public comment, please?
Thank you. We will be opening it up for public comment now. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing in the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please be reminded that you have 1 minute. I will pause for a moment for members of the public to do that. Saskia Kim, I will be unmuting your microphone. Go ahead, Ms. Kim.
Thank you. Saskia Kim again with California Nurses Association. CNA is opposed to AB 3016, is concerned that if the bill's recommendations are adopted, it would clear the way for the overall implementation of nurses, which would remove the BRN and the state from overseeing the licensure of registered nurses in the state of California, and would result in the undermining of public safety by inhibiting California's ability to set standards that apply to all nurses practicing in the state. So, for example, if California implemented nurses, it would have to recognize the licenses of nurses from the 8 states that do not require continuing education. In addition, California would also lose the ability to maintain state sovereignty and turn it over to a national entity, NCSBN, which is not a regulatory entity in and of itself. And finally, during and beyond the current pandemic, it's essential that California retains its nursing workforce, and the bill unfortunately undermines the state's efforts to retain its nursing workforce. And for those reasons, we oppose. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, do we have any other public comment?
Board Member Gerber, no one has indicated that they would like to make a comment. Would you like me to close the public window now?
Yes, please. Okay. Is public comment over?
Yes, it's been closed.
Okay, great. Thank you. So on AB 3016, the motion is to continue the position that we had in June. To oppose, we have a motion and a second. Any more comments by board members? Mr. President, would you conduct the vote?
This is Michael Jackson. I vote yes. Dolores Trujillo.
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Donna Gerber.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Elizabeth Wood.
Woods, yes.
Imelda Seha Buckowitz. Imelda Seha Buckowitz. Kenneth Marlborough.
Marlborough, yes.
Imelda Seha Buckowitz.
Sorry, I'm having difficulties with my son. I vote no.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. Moving right along.
Donna, real quick. Reza,
Yes.
are you available?
Yes, I'm here.
I saw a question or a comment posted in the public comment section. Did you want to answer it for the board?
Is it? I don't see it. Is it directed to me?
It was a question about the time limits on the public comment.
What is the question?
The person was, I can't see it right now, stating that they thought the comments were supposed to be 2 minutes.
Yeah, I believe that was addressed at the beginning of the meeting, that was going to be shortened due to the amount of material that we have to get through and the late start, that it was going to be shortened to 1 minute.
And that it was listed in the agenda that it could be public comment.
That's correct. I apologize for cutting you off. The agenda did state that if circumstances require that, that time may be shortened.
Okay. Thank you very much. I hope that answers that person's question.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thelma?
All right, on our agenda, the next bold legislation is Senate Bill 1053, which has been held in committee, so it's not moving. The last one that's on the list before we can go back to Assembly Bill 2288 would be Senate Bill 1237, that's Senator Dodd. And this bill is in reference to the nurse midwives and their scope of practice. At our last board meeting, the board did vote to support if amended. The amendments that were specific for the board that the board wanted to address were 3 areas. One was to the language that is specific, stating that this committee the nurse and midwife committee would have input and advise the board on discipline issues around any nurse midwives. The second one was to to be responsible for data that OSHPAD actually collects and to enforce whether or not the certified nurse midwives were actually reporting their data. And the third one was to specifically around, sorry. Okay, enforcement issues, yeah, the current language, I'm sorry, and to comprise their committee, the Nurse Midwifery Committee, Advisory Committee, to be comprised of at least 40% physicians and physician and surgeons. And those were the three areas that the board had concerns with. This bill has been amended. The amendments still do not reflect the concerns that the board has stated in the past.
Thelma, can you describe what the amendment to the bill is?
The amendment in the bill, okay, first and foremost, let's talk about the 40%. Instead of saying 40% of the board should be physician and surgeon, it says that the committee shall consist of 4 qualified nurse midwives, 2 qualified physicians and surgeons, including but not limited to obstetricians or family physicians, and 1 public member. So that's the that's the only amendment.
That's the amendment
that addresses those concerns.
Okay. So just for clarification, I believe the current committee that currently exists does have a physician on it, correct?
That is correct. It's in our regulation, 1 physician.
And this bill would increase that to 2, which is what we object to.
Yes.
Okay. So with that clarification as to the current status of the bill, I would recommend that we continue our position because there are still serious issues with the bill, and that we communicate those issues to the author and to the upcoming committee, which will be the Senate Business and it'll be the Assembly Business Sessions Committee. And in particular, I know that we've been consulting with legal counsel Reza to deal with the issue that the bill sets up a situation where the Midwifery Advisory Committee would weigh in on individual nurse disciplinary matters, which we think would be extremely problematic. So with those considerations, I would recommend to the board that we continue with our current position. Do I have a second?
Michael Jackson, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions from board members before we open it up for public comment? Hearing none, Mr. Moderator, would you open it up, please?
Thank you, Board Member Gerber. We will be opening up for public comment now. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. Please be reminded that you have 1 minute. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to do that. Board Member Gerber, there are no public comments. Would you like me to close the window?
Yes, please.
Oh, 1 second. Sorry, we have somebody jumped in. Charlotte, go out more.
Okay.
I will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello again, board members. Thank you for this opportunity for the public comment. I thank you for maintaining your position with opposing the addition of a physician to the midwives bill, which is, I believe, what is that, SB 1237. I too feel like we don't need representation of another profession overseeing our APRNs, any of our APRNs. I understand we already have a physician. Maybe we can do something about that in the future, but as pertaining to this particular bill, no, I do not believe there's a need to add an additional physician to that committee or board or advisory how it's titled here in this bill. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak.
Ms.
Board Member Gerber, there are no
Moderator,
more comments.
Great. Okay, could you close public comment, please? And we will now vote on SB 1237. We have a motion and a second. Mr. President, would you conduct the vote?
Michael Jackson votes yes. Donna Gerber,
Donna Gerber, yes.
Dolores Trujillo,
Dolores Trujillo, yes.
Betty Woods,
Woods, yes.
Imelda Seja-Buckowitz,
Yes.
Kenneth Marlborough.
Marlboro, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. And we are now, I believe, Thelma, down to one bill, which is AB 2288, correct?
Yes, we are. This will be our last bill on our agenda for today. Assembly Bill 2288. The author is Assembly Member Lowe. And this bill is specific to nursing programs and clinical hours. Our last board meeting, the position was to support with amendments. There were specific concerns around the clinical hours and specifically around reducing the simulation hours down to the 25%, as well as now the proposed amendments that include concurrency being removed during the process of this emergency bill that would address clinical hours.
Okay, let me just, I believe you misspoke slightly. Didn't you mean that the bill has since been amended since June?
Yes,
down
the bill
to 25% direct clinical?
Yes, that is correct. It has actually, we've had proposed amendments. It has been amended, yes, from the 75% to 25%. And also a change in the current regulation with the separation of theory from clinical training. That's the concurrency.
Okay, great. Let me just add a little bit more process clarification for board members. You know, this is a bill that we discussed, I think both in May and June. And at that time, we agreed with the bill, primarily because it tracked the emergency regulation that we were considering in March that would lower, it would give the board the authority to lower the direct clinical hours to 50%. We also supported it because it tracked and was consistent with the existing DCA waiver in order to, in this emergency pandemic, in order to try to be as flexible as possible to assist nursing programs and students getting through their courses, getting through their requirements during this time. And we specifically supported the bill because it tracked the requirement from the current law, which is 75% direct patient care clinical, reduced to 50% during this emergency. And that's what the bill was when we looked at it, and that's what the bill continued to be until it got through the state assembly. Then we began hearing that the bill was being amended in a substantive way, and ultimately, on July 21st, we were advised that the bill was going to be amended to only 25% direct clinical care. It was also going to separate concurrency, what we refer to as concurrency, which is basically the joint timing of both theory and clinical education. And we were told on July 21st that the bill would be scheduled for hearing, that hearing would occur on July 27th, giving us only 6 days to deal with these major amendments. It was clear that under those circumstances, there was no ability to conduct a public meeting on the bill or on the board's position. As a result, we put forth a letter to the committee that outlined, consistent with what has been board policy and board action on June 24th, the board's position and the specifics regarding what we saw as problematic in the amendments that were made to the bill. There was confusion about whether, because I signed the bill I signed the letter as the ledge chair. And even though I thought I had stated pretty clearly in the beginning of the letter that why we were articulating the position that we were articulating, there was concern expressed and confusion about whether this represented a vote of the actual board. So we put together an amended letter, retracted the first letter, and tried to put in the appropriate clarifications in the second letter. In addition, almost on the same day, we were advised that the July 27th Senate B&P committee hearing on the bill was postponed until August 8th. And that meant that, luckily, we could now have enough time to post a regular BRN meeting and still conduct a meeting on the bill, on the specifics of the bill, and on the board's position today, which is why we're meeting today largely, is to deal with the timing of all of this. So at this point, this bill will be heard in Senate B&P on August 8th, and we are meeting prior to that to go through the amendments of the bill. Now, and Thelma will clarify this for you, the bill continues to be amended, and as of yesterday, I believe, there are additional amendments to the ones that I just described to you, but I'll let Thelma go through that. But I just wanted to outline what the process was, what we were trying to do to be responsive to the fact that the legislature was making major changes in the bill that we had seen through the Assembly. It's now in the Senate. It will go to Senate B&P on August 8th, depending on what it looks like after that. It will have to go back to the Assembly for concurrence, and then ultimately it will go to the floor of probably both houses. So there's a lot more action potentially on the bill, especially if the author keeps putting out amendments. So we'll just have to be as responsive as we can be. But with that, I would ask that Thelma go through all of the current proposed amendments with you, and then we'll see whether anybody has questions about those amendments before we open it up to public comment.
Okay, yeah, Donna, I will go through those amendments. I don't know if the board members were given copies of those amendments. But if not, it was received on Monday. In summary, the amendments, first of all, it authorizes up to 75% simulation in 3 specialty courses that are high need and well suited to simulation. That's mental health, psychiatric nursing, obstetrics, and pediatrics, or the graduating quarter, semester, or term, but not both. It still specifically caps the med-surg and geriatric at 50% unless in the last term. And this course breakdown is consistent with the current waivers. The bill previously limited the 75% to the graduating term, specified what a school must submit to NEC, that's a nursing education consultant, to prove that no alternate facility or agency within 25 miles of an impacted program to standardize what the NECs may ask for. It makes technical and conforming changes, such as allowing alternate sites and preceptorships to last to the end of a student's academic term, so they are not pulled from facilities midterm and changing quarter or semester to the academic term. And I do want to also make sure that, I don't know if I misspoke that, but I want to make sure you understood that that reduction to the 25% was only being focused in the last semester or quarter. It is not asking for the 25% to be done just overall. And this would be only done during an emergency, as stated when the governor has.
PRN moderator, did we lose Thelma?
Did somebody mute me? Hello?
No, sir. She's fine.
I hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you
Thelma,
now.
I hear you.
All right. I was done.
Okay, go ahead, Thelma.
I was done. Yeah, I was just going over the amendments. I was done.
Okay. Before I open up to public comment, any additional comments from?
Yes. Donna, can you hear me? This is Loretta Melby, the board executive officer.
Yes, please go ahead.
So there were a few more items that were not mentioned in the updates that I want to make sure that we have an awareness of. One of the items that was the change in the way that this bill can be implemented for enrolled students. That was changed from current approval for currently approved enrollment. So that was a change. Additionally, the 80% for NCLEX pass rate for 2 years, that automatically does not allow for 15 schools at the last checking to be able to even participate in using the additional 25%. So it is not an inclusive bill any longer. And then the one that I've heard the most from with the students is that PEDS, OB, psych mental health, and the the final semester dropping down to 25%. with the caveat that is written into the bill stating a minimum of 25% of the remaining direct patient care hours are completed in an in-person setting. That language limits the abilities of the students to be able to utilize telehealth for that final 25% remaining. It was noted that in the last semester and quarter of the students, that the only way that they were able to progress through the specialty areas like OB or pediatrics and even some mental health was the use of telehealth. The telehealth was exceptionally important with the psych mental health, as well as they were doing wellness checks and really checking on the people that were in fact sheltered in place without a lot of human or personal contact. So those were additional edits to this bill that I do think that need to be looked at as well, especially in really kind of looking out for our students. Thank you.
Okay, any other, we will do board comments after we have public comment, but are there any questions from board members just in terms of clarification of what the bill currently is at this time?
Know what schools are inclusive that are not included? The 15 schools that she mentioned, where are they located?
Hang on a second, Imelda. I think Lori can try
Yes,
to.
Imelda, I will try to answer that question. What you can do is on our board website, we do have a listing of schools and their NCLEX pass rates. You can go back and look at those. Additionally, the newest NCLEX pass rates was just released. It is currently in a review process through the schools to ensure accuracy of reporting. That is typically out within this next month, and it'll be finalized, and that will be updated to our board website as well. And when I did a quick glance looking at the NCLEX pass rates that are posted on our website, and then additionally looking at the NCLEX pass rates that were just released, it was noticed that there were 15 schools that were not able to utilize the 25% in OB-PEDS and psych mental health, or in the final semester if the caveat was on there that it had to have 2 years with an 80% pass rate. And that is typically against what the board does, is they try to get something that is inclusive versus exclusive. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I can pull a full list during public comment and share that for you real quick in a public forum right how we are right now, if you guys do want to wait for that.
Okay, Imelda? Imelda, are you muted?
I'm sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to find out if they were like in the rural areas, Central Valley, and some of these places where we have a difficult time, getting nurses. That's all. Were you able to hear me?
Okay, well, I think.
Yes, I was able to hear you, Imelda, and I will pull an inclusive list. And that way you guys will have this. I'm sure that public comment will go on for a few minutes. So I will pull an inclusive list right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Moderator, would you open the public comment on AB 2288?
Donna, before they opens the comment, we haven't taken a vote yet.
I know. I haven't put through a motion because I think on this particular one, I would prefer to wait until public comment is through, and then I'll put forth a recommended motion.
Okay.
This is Reza, board counsel. I just want to, that makes sense. I just want to advise that additionally, you might take an additional public comment session once the motion is made and on the table. So I don't know if that changes how you want to proceed, but please keep that in mind.
Actually, that would change how I want to proceed. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And in the interest of wanting to make sure that we have as much public comment as possible and not have to limit due to time constraints, I think it's best to go ahead and try to put a motion on the floor. So I would recommend that the board position change on 2288 to say that we oppose the bill as amended.
This is Dolores Trujillo, and I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That would be the motion that the board will be considering. And we will now, Mr. Moderator, open it to public
Donna,
comment.
this is Reza, board counsel, again, if I may. Can we get clarification as to your motion, what the specific amendments are to be? I believe you were moving to oppose the bill unless amended, or is it just a flat oppose?
I was moving to oppose the bill as amended.
Okay, so
what I'm trying to do, Reza, is be clear that the board supports AB 2288 in its original version, but due to the amendments that have been made since it passed the assembly, that we oppose the bill.
Okay.
Does that track?
Yeah, I take the actual position would be to oppose the bill.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Donna, before we move forward, I do have a list of the schools. I will read them off as this is public information that is on our website. So the first school is American Career College. The second school is California Career College. Third is Carrington College. Fourth, East Los Angeles College. Fifth, Gavilan College. Sixth, Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts. Seventh, LA Southwest. Eighth, Merced College. 9, Mount St. Mary's College University, Los Angeles, the associate degree. Southwestern College. And then on the just updated, if the NCLEX numbers are validated, would be American University of Health Science, Cabrillo College, Mission College, and Porterville College.
That's a lot of colleges are being excluded.
Correct.
That is correct, Imelda, and that's why we wanted to make sure that the public was aware that because of some of the technical amendments that were added to the bill after we took a support vote, that there are some schools that would be excluded from being able to take part of the 25%. An additional, the 25% that is suggested does not allow for telehealth, and telehealth was imperative with the student being able to complete OBPs and psych mental health.
I'm just wondering if we should be more clear as to why we're opposing. I simply would oppose it just because of that. But we're just opposing as amended with no explanation, or does Raja keep note of that and or you know, for next time we vote, we remember why we opposed it?
Imelda, this is Donna. We can clarify that all the reasons that we oppose the bill. There are multiple reasons, including the ones that we're just discussing right now.
Thank you.
We can clarify.
Yeah, thank you. I would like that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay.
Imelda, there was additional amendments on there that I was trying to share, which was the enrollment number information. And then additionally, there was another technical amendment that came out discussing the student's academic year versus an academic year, which would make this bill, instead of it being effective until June of 2021, It could therefore be effective clear through December of 2021 for certain schools. Again, not being an equal bill, it would only, some schools would be able to take advantage of it through the entire year of 2021 up to December, and some schools would only be able to take advantage of it to June of 2021. So some of the technical amendments do have some great effects.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from board members?
Donna, this is Ken Marlborough. Did I hear earlier that after public comment, we'll have an opportunity to make comments and additional questions to board members?
Of course. Of course.
Thank you.
This is Elizabeth Woods. I do have a question in general. Are the other licensing boards, for instance, MD, radiology techs, are they decreasing their educational requirements also?
Maybe our executive officer could speak to that.
I was on the phone yesterday with some representatives of the committees, and this statement was made to myself that other boards were not asking for some of these reliefs, but that the primary focus that was being asked within the various legislative groups were coming from the nursing schools.
So the only licensing board asking to change requirements is the BRN?
I cannot speak to that as fact. I was just letting you know that that is what was shared with me as I was speaking with a representative yesterday from the Senate committee. What I can speak to is that our DCA Director, Kimberly Kirschmeyer, works with a waivers request, and she addresses all of the needs of the boards and bureaus that she oversees. And the BRN is the only one that I'm aware of that has a waiver that addresses decreasing the in-person clinical time. So my assumption would only be that the BRN is the one that has requested to decrease the in-person clinical hours, that other boards and bureaus have not requested it. Therefore, there is not a waiver that is on our public page.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions by board members? If not, Mr. Moderator, will you open public comment, please?
Thank you, Board Member Gerber. I will be activating the Q&A feature. We have a screen share right now that we are doing for the members of the public to see how they should submit their questions. I've activated the Q&A feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please be reminded you have 1 minute. Dr. Goldfarb, I've unmuted your microphone.
Thank you. This is Sharon Goldfarb, President of COADN North and Dean of Health Sciences at College of Marin. I have a question for legal counsel. Can you please describe the process of how BRN takes a stance on legislation based off public comments? And if the majority of the public wants the BRN to take a stance, what is a process for that decision? Also, just to clarify on the question of Elizabeth, that I am in charge of a dental assisting program, a medical assisting program, and a EMT firefighting program. We have all had to make adjustments because the clinical is closed to everybody, and some people haven't requested, but they've instead suspended programs. And to let you know that just this 2 Fridays ago, I lost my very last hospital. So I have absolutely no clinical spots for my students, and it would be really incredible if we could come up with some ways that our schools could continue even in the light of this pandemic. So if you could answer the legal question, Reza, thank you.
This is Board Counsel Reza Pejhash. As I said, not a question and answer session, but I will go ahead and respond to that. I think your question was, how does the board take into account public comment in determining its position that it's going to take on legislation? As we've been doing for the last few hours, the board takes into account the comments from the public, and as has been stated, we very much value input from stakeholders. However, at the end of the day, it's the board that's vested with authority to take action and recommend its position on these bills. So the reason we're here is to hear public comments and hear different points of view on these various issues. Board members take that information into account. But again, at the end of the day, the board has to balance the perspective of its various stakeholders. Those perspectives go in different directions on various issues. And the board, at the end of the day, is statutorily charged with public protection as its mandate. So when you're talking about lowering educational requirements, one of the things the board has to consider is how is that going to impact consumers in California? And I think you asked if a majority of the public wants to take a position on a bill, how does the board factor that in? Well, again, it's not per se up to the public to dictate what position the board is going to take. The board is very receptive to comments from the public and takes that information into account in deciding what position it's going to take. But at the end of the day, it has to balance all the different perspectives with its own statutory mandate of public protection. I hope that answers the question.
Philip Greiner, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Hi, thank you again for allowing the comment. There are a couple of points to make here. One, we ask that you support Assembly Bill 2288 as it is currently amended. This approach was taken because the BRN was essentially non-responsive to educational demands for flexibility. Educators know best how to prepare students. We know better than the board does on this, and we are asking for you to allow us the flexibility to continue to educate our students. That's why we need this flexibility. And as far as benchmarking, you should be benchmarking with other state boards of nursing like Texas and other states that have said in this pandemic, we give you entire flexibility. We're not requiring any direct care. So please be in step with other boards. Thank you.
Mayor Keshechian, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Kind of a general request and a question. As we are in California, we have a huge diverse community. There is a lot of foreign graduates RN that they require to have the deficiency subject, and it's a clinicals. Is the board planning to kind of waive this deficiency subject, as there is a huge surge for RNs, even though in the hospitals or our outpatient settings? And as the other gentleman mentioned earlier, Ohio State did similar action and allowed the foreign graduate to kind of get waived this deficiency subject so they are ready to pass the NCLEX and move forward to help the American community and American population in this pandemic. Thank you so much.
Peggy Mata, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Good afternoon. I am the clinical placement coordinator at University of San Diego, and we are in support for the AB 2288. I understand that myself and other schools have been meeting, and we are unable to get into the clinical setting, especially for vulnerable populations, be pediatrics. We are in need of the simulation, and I think that each school should be able to decide how they are going to move forward with that and how they're going to do the simulation and provide that education for their students. So we are in support of AB 2288. Thank you.
Saskia Kim, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Thank you. Saskia Kim with CNA, representing more than 100,000 California RNs providing direct patient care during the current pandemic. CNA is opposed to AB 2288 because we believe the bill threatens safe patient care by increasing the risk of decreased clinical competency. CNA nurses supervise the provision of care by students during their clinical rotations, and we believe student nurses are an important source of patient care services. In fact, CDPH just recently issued an all facilities letter clarifying that long-term care facilities and hospitals may permit nursing students to obtain the clinical experience in their facilities. We have historically opposed replacing direct patient care clinical experience with skills laboratory learning. The most sophisticated mannequin cannot replace mentored experiential time with patients in the actual environment of care. AB 2288 also directly conflicts with the BRN's public protection mandate because the reduction of direct patient care experience from 75% to 25% is unsafe. Because of it, it means that some nursing students could only have to complete 3 12-hour direct patient care shifts in 1 year instead of 21 shifts. The bill would also increase the risk of decreased clinical competency by eliminating the concurrency requirement. And I've testified before you previously that we had concerns about the initial version of the bill, but we understood the need for a narrow approach to addressing the needs of nursing students who have been displaced. But the bill as currently in print is not a narrow approach, and instead we believe it's overly broad and increases the risk.
Karen Lightfoot, I will be unmuting your microphone.
I just wanted to thank you and to recognize that we are all looking at common goals of protecting the public and educating students to be the best practitioners that they can be so that they are able to meet the needs of the communities in which they will be working. And just recognizing that we are not the bill does not propose reducing education. It looks at alternate ways of providing education that meets the students' learning objectives and the course's overall objectives. And it really is looking at how to allow our students to progress. And if you look at simulation, as they do in the military, where they have drills, where people in the military do drills on a regular basis so that when they are faced with difficult situations, they already know how to respond. And that's exactly how simulation is designed, to help our students actively engage in their assessment and understanding of
Charlotte Phillip Moore, I will be unmuting your microphone.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I deflect to the next caller who's making comments. Thank you.
Megan
This is
Gorilla.
board counsel before the next comment. I'm not sure what was meant by deflect to the next caller. So I think each person has 1 minute to speak. So the next caller can go ahead.
Oh, where's she? Oh, Megan. Sorry, Megan Rilla, I will be unmuting your microphone. Please be reminded you have 1 minute.
Yes, hello, my name is Megan Rilla, and I'm with the University of California, San Francisco School of Nursing in the Office of Student Affairs. And we are working with graduating students who are now getting jobs in telemedicine. And these telemedicine jobs are requiring students, the nurse practitioners, to get licensed in all 50 states in order to treat their patients. Is there anything the board is going to be doing to assist in this process of education verification in reciprocity for California licensure? Because currently we have to fill out a form for each state, which requires multiple information requests on students' coursework, their curriculum, and several other questions about the program. Is there any way to streamline this process? Is that being worked on at all?
This is Donna Gerber. We're taking comments right now regarding AB 2288. I think your item is not referencing that agenda item. I would recommend that you contact the board directly, the BRN directly, and pursue that question. Mr. Moderator.
Catherine Azubuki, I will unmute your microphone.
Okay, hi everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, there were some schools that were mentioned that were excluded from the amendment of 2288. So my question is, why were those schools excluded?
The answer is, I believe I can clarify that. In the bill, there is a requirement that schools have an 80% NCLEX pass rate. So it sets up a situation where some schools are excluded, and that's an approximate number of 15.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Linda Zorn, I will be unmuting your microphone.
November 8th, 2018, the Camp Wildfire destroyed the town of Paradise in Butte County, including Feather River Hospital, multiple SNFs, and other care facilities that were used for clinical placements for our students. At that time, the BRN was our partner as we navigated post-campfire realities of finding clinical placement options alternatively and working with our students to complete the semester. A year and a half later, we have COVID-19, and we layer another disaster over the campfire. COVID has made things more difficult as additional clinical placements have become closed to students. All disasters cause significant disruptions to usual operations. As a result, regulations and policies must be adjusted to assist those affected as we struggle to maintain a sense of normalcy. Let me remind you, the intent of AB 2288 is to support our California nursing schools by providing the tools and flexibility required to progress and graduate our students in the current COVID-19 pandemic and future disaster situations. AB 22 is essential to ensure a strong nursing workforce pipeline to meet the healthcare needs of Californians. Governor Newsom talks about collaboration, cooperation, partnerships. He assures us we'll get through this together. And that's
Mr.
Mary
Moderator.
Wickman, I will be unmuting your microphone. Mary Wickman, go ahead.
My name is Mary Wickman. I'm the president of CACN, and I'm the director of the nursing program at Vanguard University. But I think what my big concern is now is I really see the nursing pipeline drying up without the support of AB 2288. We have nursing students who are ready to, getting close to graduating, also new students coming in. And without this steady stream of new nurses in the pipeline and into the nursing workforce, who's going to be taking care of our patients? As the nursing numbers also are decreasing and nurses retiring or getting sick and leaving the workforce. So to me, I see that is really a concern that's facing us, and we need to take action on that. Who's going to be taking care of us in the future if we don't have these new nurses getting through school and entering the workforce? Thank you.
Garrett Chan, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Of Health Impact. Hello, this is Garrett Chan, President and CEO of Health Impact at California Nursing Workforce Center. Contrary to what legal counsel stated earlier, AB 2288 does not request to lower any educational requirements, but rather use scientifically sound teaching and learning methods to ensure that students are learning the practice of nursing. Also, telehealth is not simulation, but direct patient care as universally understood by practice settings in the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. I asked the BRN to provide evidence that supports the assertion that non-direct patient care learning is unsafe because I cannot find the evidence myself. I also asked the BRN to identify how many other DCA boards specify direct patient experiences that would require waivers, similar to the BRN. We need more nurses in the workforce, so I'm asking the BRN to support AB 2288. Thank you.
David Namnath, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. My name is David Namnath. I am a second-year nursing student at the College of Marin. I understand that in-hospital clinical hours are reduced, but without allowing us to finish our school and sit in for our NCLEX, we are left with waiting for the fight instead of joining the very fight that has claimed thousands of lives this year. Please support AB 228 and allow us to graduate on time or have some sort of resolve that will allow us to become nurses. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
B. Hathaway, I will be unmuting your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Brianna Hathaway. I am also a second-year nursing student at the College of Marin. And I would ask that the BRN trust the nursing schools and the administrators who are working very hard to facilitate students becoming nurses. During this time, it doesn't make sense to send students into a clinical setting in light of that increasing the risk for contracting COVID for at-risk patients. And, I believe that if we trust the educators, they will they will educate us to become safe nurses and enter the workforce in that way. Thank you.
Board President Gerber, that's all for our comments. Would you like him to close the window?
Yes, please.
Board moderator, this is Loretta, the EO. I do want to add some clarification. One of the students mentioned about being in school and waiting for the fight. I want to make sure that everybody on this call is aware of our statute 2727 that allows for these students and others to help out during this pandemic under the specific executive order that has been given to that. So under 2727, we also created a emergency matrix that is on our website in partnership with CDPH that allows for students to help right now. They do not need to graduate. They do not need to progress, although that is the goal for everybody here, is to progress and graduate. That is what we want. But that you guys can help right now. And then based on the decisions made by your academic institution, they could grant credit for that. I know that we've been working with Garrett Chan at Health Impact to get that out to the various academic institutions that would allow for granting of academic credit. So the BRN supports granting of academic for clinical experiences that can be done currently under 2727 without having to wait to graduate. Additionally, the discussion was there about Paradise when it burned down. That was specifically where that dean and director worked one-on-one with our nursing education consultants, and that is our current practice that has not changed. And in fact, my NECs have been working diligently with their program directors to help the students progress and graduate. By going that route, they have been able to progress over 80% of the schools and graduate 92% of the schools. Again, that's not 100%. We would love to have 100%. And that is, in fact, the goal that we are aiming to work for. What I think people need to understand is that pursuing legislation, having these various amendments being added to this bill has more than a single school or even a couple school impact. It actually impacts more than just our California nursing students. It affects national and international, and therefore has a ripple effect. So that is something that I believe we all need to be aware of. The other thing that was addressed was the clinical being an at-risk location for at-risk students to contract or pass on COVID. We hear you loud and clear, which is why the telehealth experience for direct patient care was implemented within California BRN and the pre-licensure schools. And that has been an amazing tool for students to use that are at higher risk or maybe have higher risk family members at home that they do need to protect. With the inclusion of the statement where it says that the 25% has to be in person versus direct patient care, that has created an issue for telehealth to not be able to be used for that remaining 25%. Again, we hear you, and that is why we are discussing these amendments that happened to the bill after the board took a support position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I also just wanted to add, before we open it up for board discussion and a motion, or we have the motion, excuse me, before we open it up to additional board discussion, there was an amendment made to the original bill that board members need to be aware of, and that is it describes the number of students as the number of enrolled students. The previous bill described it as the number of approved students. The reason this matters and the reason that we would oppose the amendment is that, as you know, we have one very large school in Southern California that unilaterally increased its approved enrollment so that it currently has about 4,000 students. And this language would allow it to apply those enrolled students as if they were approved students. This is the subject of litigation that you know about relative to the board's authority regarding enrollments, but this one particular school, when they unilaterally increased their enrollment numbers without board approval, they increased it so much that they now constitute 25% of the statewide nursing student population. So it makes that change in language extremely problematic for us. So with that clarification, I will open the discussion from board members. Questions, comments?
This is Dolores Trujillo, bedside nurse and BRN board member. I have a concern on this bill, regarding this bill. My first concern is that human response and reaction cannot be mimicked outside of the within the sim lab arena. Give an example. A med-surg unit is probably the most common unit you will find new grad nurses. Currently on the med-surg units, we are seeing COVID patients. The new graduate nurse may have 3 of these patients in varying levels in the COVID disease process. They also may have 2 other patients within their ratio of 1 to 5 in the state of California. You have meds, treatments, call lights, procedures, etc. on these patients, all while donning and doffing PPE in the proper order. How does that nurse prioritize? The RN that is with the student nurse in the clinical setting can help walk them through this scenario and prioritize care. I just gave a simple scenario. Most assignments on the med-surg units are more complex than this example I have given. The clinical setting with an experienced RN would help strengthen the critical thinking skills for the nursing student that would be needed even in these simple scenarios to help them prioritize care. The student nurses today are the nurses that will take our place at the bedside in the hospitals tomorrow. And I would like them to be as prepared as possible to execute safe and quality care to our patients. I would like to thank the board and the public for listening to my concern regarding 88.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Woods. And we're talking about students decreasing their requirements for graduation.
Betty, are you muted?
Am I unmuted?
There you go. Go ahead. We're not hearing you, Betty.
Are you hearing? What about now?
Yes, now you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We're talking about students now who we're talking about decreasing their requirements, educational requirements, on-site requirements for graduation and for taking the NCLEX. Has there been any thought, if this type of thing progresses, has there been any thought to requiring the various work sites or institutions where these new RNs will be going to work? Will there be additional orientation or mentoring of these new graduates in the various institutions, since they have not gotten their full requirements for their education? I don't think anybody's going to answer that question, but I'm putting that out there because we want the best care to patients that possibly be given them. And if people...
Betty?
Yes?
This is Lori, the board EO, and I can let you know that we have heard that new graduate programs, due to the funding issues and financial stability of the various hospital settings, have been postponed, that the new graduate programs are not necessarily going to be in place, or they would be limited. Additionally, with the furloughs and the layoffs that have happened to several hospitals in various areas of the state, they have laid off some of the middle management people, and that would include some of the educators. So the support that you're asking about has been affected. Understand, though, that this is not a statement that goes statewide, that it has happened in various regions. So that is not an inclusive statement, but there has been some effect in certain areas where hospitals have laid off or delayed or canceled new grad programs.
Okay. Other questions or comments from board members?
I have a comment. This is Imelda. Again, I oppose this. I oppose this, but for certain things, but I do think that this board needs to look further beyond. We need to make some adjustments. I mean, technology's there. I just think we need to adjust with time. I am concerned about public safety, but I think the idea of having some simulation, more simulation, we really need to look at that. I believe at the last meeting, I asked that we should be capturing, some data as to who graduated, how much simulation, were they able to complete that? I know this is an emergency waiver bill, but I do think that we definitely need to consider moving forward and include more simulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Imelda. Other board members?
Yes, this is Ken Marlborough. Thank you. So, I knew this was going to be a tough one, and I've been kind of researching the pros and cons of this bill. And I came across a document from the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, which was done June of this year. And it had listed, I believe, every state as to what they were doing, boards, as to what they were doing for COVID-19. And a lot of responses, not all of them, really talked about having flexibility so that their students can continue on. But what dawned on me, and I've read numbers and data, was we have to remember this is an emergency. It's large. It's not just California, it's across the country. And I know all of you have been through some form of emergencies, but I can pretty much tell you in my 31 years in the fire service, I have been through a lot: fires, earthquakes, floods, even acts of terrorism in this state, across the nation. And what I do know, agencies, government agencies, private businesses that need to provide services to citizens during emergencies like this have to be flexible on how their service is provided, because it's either essential, it's much needed. In this case, this is essential in my opinion. We need our nurses, and we need to do the best that we can in order to get this done. And when I've seen these disasters start to recover, obviously there's always gaps that are going to be shown because of flexibility. And my hope and vision is that this board, along with the schools, will work to close those gaps if they are necessary, so that our students can get on into that pathway of nursing. So I just want to emphasize, this is an emergency. The last time we had a state emergency was when Gray Davis was the governor, and that was because of our electrical power. We will have emergencies, but they will be more likely regional, or we can have another state emergency. And this is designed only for that. So with that being said, I actually support AB 2288 because you have to have that flexibility in order to get things done. And I will not support an opposition to the board. So thank you.
Donna, I'd like to ask a question. This is Dolores.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So the flexibility, I mean, I feel like we've been flexible somewhat in reducing it from 75% to 50%.
Correct.
Okay. So we have exhibited some flexibility, but we're talking about taking care of human lives. And being a bedside nurse, I don't, in my opinion, in a sim lab, I don't think, of course, every scenario can be mimicked. But that human response cannot be mimicked in a sim lab. Now, I believe we've been flexible and gone down to 50%. But I think any more than that, we have a mandate to protect the public. Maybe there's some resolution that we could come to with regard to the schools finding clinical time. And as you mentioned, there's one school in particular that has unilaterally increased their enrollment, which is probably taking a lot of the clinical time away from other schools. And we might have to deal with that also. But I think we've demonstrated flexibility already in going from 75% to 50%. And as Lori said, we have hospitals that are laying off middle management. I work for a large hospital chain, and I know that we are not doing any training for new grads, and we haven't in a few years. And with the COVID and all of this now that's going on, I can't see that being modified in the next year or two. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments by board members?
This is Board President Jackson. I have a comment too. I've listened to every single public comment, all the board members' comment. I can agree more with Board Member Trujillo. She's absolutely correct. Betty is correct in this. Emergencies, I realize we're in an emergency. My whole existence as a nurse every day is an emergency because that's where I work. I work in the emergency department. And guess what? You need to be prepared. I also heard a member of the public mention about simulation and military to train them to go to war. Let me tell that person that nothing can simulate when a live round is coming down range, period. It will change your life forever. And there will be nothing in simulation that can prepare you for that. Nothing can prepare you for combat. I heard one of the deans talk about how Texas has made flexibility adjustments. Let's also remember that Texas, the lieutenant governor says, send your old folks home and let them just die. We have to be better than that. We are California. We have the largest board in the country. We have to ensure that nurses that graduate from the programs here are fully equipped to go in the battle, which means they need to have the whole armor on. I can't believe that people want to send nurses that do critical work and save lives every day into battle without being equipped with the whole armor. It'd be like our president sending folks in without a mask, because a mask is a part of the armor that you wear during this pandemic. And I can't believe that people that are in leadership positions in our state want to send nurses in without masks or without the appropriate preparation. So that's all I have for now. And my vote is to vote yes to support your motion, Donna Gerber.
Okay, thank you for that comment. I'm going to call on our executive officer to just perhaps clarify for board members the nature of all of the flexibility that is available to nursing schools. Obviously, this is a difficult problem. I mean, we're all struggling with trying to balance a number of interests here. And we've really worked incredibly hard to do that. So I want our executive officer to kind of put a little bit more explanation on that for you. But before she does that, I would also point out that the NCSBN just issued a report in their journal for July of 2020. It's only been out about a week. And one of the things that they've done is they've gone and looked at this issue, not specific to COVID, but certainly specific to what are the quality indicators for good nursing programs. And it's interesting that, and I'll just share with everybody. So the major themes emerging from their review of all the existing studies is that under quality indicator, number 4 is clinical experiences with actual patients that prepare students for the reality of clinical practice. Under warning signs, number 2 is limited clinical experiences that do not prepare the students for practice. And number 11 is over-reliance on simulation to replace clinical experience with actual patients. And they go on later in this report, they identify as the absolute minimum the 50% of being able to use simulation for clinical experience. Now, that isn't what we're being asked to look at right now. We're being asked to look at 25% under certain circumstances of direct clinical training. I think, though, it's instructive that the NCSBN, which reflects the position of the boards nationally, that they're citing in this most recent document, again, just looking at the literature, that 50% has to be at least 50% direct hands-on clinical training in order to produce a competent nurse. So with that, I will ask our executive officer to just comment to clarify all the different levels of flexibility that we have tried to implement in order to address the very real issues around the fact that the hospitals withdrew their services in providing clinical experiences for California students.
Thank you, Donna. I wasn't prepared for this question, but I will do my best to answer it. The original thing that we allowed for is to make it a minor curriculum revision to go from in-person on-campus instruction to distance learning. That in the past has been a major curriculum revision with a $2,500 fee attached to that and up to 6 months to process, and it would have made it have to go in front of the Education Licensing Committee meeting, then go to full board before it would be ratified and able to be implemented. So that was the first thing that we adjusted. Additionally, we requested the 50% waiver for the various nursing content areas, OB, peds, psych, mental health, geriatrics, and med-surg. And the reason that it had to be addressed in that manner is because that is how our regulation is written. And a waiver is only put forth to list certain areas of current regulation and cannot be used to write new legislation. Additionally, we made sure to reach out, and I'm saying we as the NECs, because our NECs are the ones that do the work with the one-on-one with the program directors, and they have been pivotal to this process. The NECs reached out to remind the program directors that within our current regulation that fundamentals, the very first nursing course, can be taught 100% in a skills lab or a simulated laboratory of some sort and does not require any direct patient care. That way all first year nursing students can take advantage of that, progress, and move on without any hit to the clinical sites or be affected by the COVID disrupting the clinical sites at all. That paired with the 50% for OB, peds, psych, mental health, med-surg, and geri that helped students to progress. Additionally, we looked at the difficulty that it may be as the hospital sites and the new clinical facilities that are being explored to get a contract done during this period as people were having difficulty transferring to a commuting environment. So we lifted the requirement to have a contract in place, and they can then go ahead and have a clinical site without a current contract. They may choose to do an MOU or something of that situation. And if that clinical facility ends up being an amazing site, which we have heard that some of the alternative sites turned out to be quite amazing, that they would then get a contract into place and fully execute it. But we wanted to make sure that we were not delaying anything by requiring contracts. Additionally, we removed that a board had to approve the clinical settings, that these clinical settings can be approved by the NECs and implemented immediately. We also removed some various documentation that was required to prove that there was no other clinical impact, that there was an orientation in place for various clinical spots, because we did not want to delay the student getting into a clinical site by having them do onboarding and orientation and various other things that are outlined in a contract, that they can come in and help immediately. Another thing is when we were looking at the preceptor, and then we reminded our schools that the preceptor course is optional. It is not a requirement by the BRN for any school to have a preceptor course. They can receive licensing without a preceptor. However, the schools that have chosen to continue with the preceptor course, we removed a lot of the red tape for that preceptor. There was one I could talk about right now that was a specific request that says that preceptor needed to be at that facility for a year before that preceptor could qualify to meet our regulations. That was removed There was also a part where that preceptor, if they were not available, a second preceptor needed to be available, and that it had to have the same requirements met as the primary preceptor. As we know, this is an emergency. There is going to be people coming in from out of state, from the National Guard, from other areas to help. And they are perfectly capable of helping to oversee a student. So we did not want to hinder that process as well. So we removed that. So there was a lot of things that we removed. Additionally, we went back to the drawing board. What we have in legislation or regulation right now is a minimum unit requirement for licensure. The minimum unit clinical requirement for licensure is 18 units for semester and 27 units for quarter systems. What we realized when we took a look at our schools is that 75% of our pre-licensure nursing programs throughout the state of California require in excess of our minimum, some having 384 additional hours than the BRN minimum. So with a 50% waiver at the 846, which is our BRN minimum, it would require the student to only have to complete 432 hours in a clinical setting. And that's with 50%. That is not taking out to the 100% that could be done in fundamentals. When that school chose to have an increased amount of hours, adding an additional 384 hours, that increased the student's limit to 1,248 clinical hours in a clinical facility. So we felt that that was really where our targets needed to be, is to really encourage the schools that during this emergency to bring their requirement down to our minimum licensing requirements, and they can go back up to whatever they had previously done after COVID ended. As they're asking for flexibility from us, we are asking for flexibility from them. When you look at an additional 384 hours in a clinical setting over and above what the BRN requires, and you multiply that out by maybe 100 students being enrolled, that causes a ripple effect throughout that community. What that means is there's 38,400 additional hours being asked to be provided in a direct patient care clinical area, acute care hospital, such. And that will affect the other schools in the area. That also affects clinical impaction when we're looking at this past COVID. That also affects other area schools to not be able to increase enrollment because a school is deciding to have more units than required. Additionally, when we're looking at consumer protection, and our students are the consumers that we are protecting, I believe we need to start looking at the schools that are requiring more units, which then means more time in school, and it also means more financial aid debt that the student then undertakes. So that might be something further. When looking at national options, I have been on those EO calls weekly with NCSBN. There was a lot of boards and bureaus that made those changes to go to a 25% or go to 100%. Those same EOs are on the calls going, I think we made a mistake. How do we go back to where we were? What you can note is that NCSBN listed that document for June with data that was collected in May. So I think we would, it would behoove us to get current data past May and look at that. What NCSBN is looking at now is discussing a minimum standard for hours in a clinical setting for nurse licensure. Some of the numbers being talked about are 500 hours or 600 hours as a minimum in direct care experience for a nurse to be able to graduate. That's something we're additionally looking at past COVID. So we have been very flexible in a lot of areas. I do believe that there may be more areas to be flexible. As I've been talking to a lot of people, we were in support of 2288. We wanted to see that go into effect because we did want the students to be able to benefit from having something in place that was longer than 60 days. As this bill continued to morph, DCA heard us, and in fact, they now lengthened the waivers to go through December and will now expire January 1st. It is enacted for the 50% and the various exceptions that we have provided through this next semester or quarter, so the end of this year. If there's any more specific questions, I'd be happy to ask, but those are the things that we have shown flexibility on that I could think of right off the top of my head.
Thanks, Lori. Sorry I surprised you with that question, but I knew you would know them pretty much off the top of your head. Any other questions or issues from board members to be addressed before we go to a vote?
Donna, this is Ken. Can you just restate the motion?
The motion is to oppose the amended AB 2288.
Thank you.
Okay, and what this assumes, I should clarify, is that the board will continue to interact with presenting our position at the Senate B&P committee, presenting our position as the bill moves through the Senate. If it goes back to the Assembly, presenting the board's position there, and identifying really the issues that we've all talked about. So just be aware, other board members, that we don't control what amendments may be made to this bill. So as it goes forward, I think that was the benefit, really, and I'm so glad we had more time, as it turned out, to be able to conduct a meeting on legislation. It was important that the full board have an opportunity to discuss all these various issues, because this is a bill that seems to be amended almost daily. So things will come up, and we're going to do our best to make sure that the board's concerns and positions, as well as our historical positions and our responsibility to be a consumer protection agency, are referenced as much as possible through this complex process. So with that,
call for the vote.
Yes, Mr. President, would you conduct the vote?
Michael Jackson, I vote yes to oppose. Donna Gerber?
Donna Gerber, yes.
Dolores Trujillo?
Dolores Trujillo, yes to oppose.
Elizabeth Woods?
Woods, yes.
Emil Deseja Buckowitz?
I vote no. I think can I say a comment?
You're voting right now.
Okay, no.
Kenneth Marlborough?
Marlborough, no.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, great. Thelma, that's the last of our bills under 4.0, correct?
That is correct. Can I get a clarification on the position on AB 2288? Is that vote to oppose unless amended, or oppose?
Oppose.
All right, thank you. Yes, that concludes the bills.
Okay, Mr. President, I'll turn it back to you then. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Now we'll convene into closed session for items 5.0. The board will convene in a closed session pursuant to the Government Code Section 111.26, Subdivision A, to consider the employment and evaluation of performance of public employees. Information only. Board members, the phone number is listed in your email to call in for the closed session item. Thank you. Bye. At this time, too, board members, how about we come back at like 10 after 1?
Excellent idea.
Sounds good to me.
Sorry, so this is Reza. Are you saying to begin the closed session at 10 after?
Begin the closed session at 10 after 1.
Okay, that's fine with me. I don't expect the closed session will take very long, but I'm open to however you all want to do it.
Okay, thank you. See you there at 1 o'clock. Well, 10 after 1. Thank you.
Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back, Lori.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, is there a reason why I can't click the panelist button and see who's in? Oh, there it goes. Now it's working.
Welcome back, Dolores.
Thank you. Did you hear me the first 2 times? I guess not.
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay, I'm here now.
Welcome back, Ken.
Okay, I'm here.
Reza, welcome back.
Thank you.
We're just waiting on Emilda to rejoin.
Yes, sir. Welcome back, Imelda. Imelda,
Yes, I'm here.
thank you.
BRN moderator, thank you very much. We are now convened back in open session. And the next item on the agenda would be to adjourn the meeting, item 7.0. Thank you, staff, for all your time. Thank you, board members, for all your time. And once again, let's remember all those that have lost their lives, especially the nurses, right now to COVID-19. So thank you all very much. This adjourns the meeting for August 4th, 2020.
Be safe, everybody. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.